Now let's talk to him, man. I want to talk to Puff right now.
Yes.
Now it was this documentary that claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah. Check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there, with all due respect. But I appreciate you as a journalist asking.
All right.
Thank you.
He was involved.
Only they can answer that question. I have my own opinion, but I wouldn't slander their name like they did mine. I wouldn't say things that I knew, you know what I mean? I believe so. I do believe so. I have proved things that I could say that will back up my claim, but this is not for the world to know about. You know what I mean? It's between me and him, and only he knows. So every time he say it didn't happen, or that's the only thing that makes this become an issue to everybody. Because you seen what I said in the Vibe article. I basically bowed out. It was gonna go ahead about my life. The next issue, that wasn't even the next issue because them cowards waited about 4 issues before they got their story together. 4 issues later, half of New York is commenting on me and before, they was all like, we didn't see nothing.
Y'all, it's a different day for Diddy to be sweating buckets, cause I just received word from credible sources that the feds working on his recent charges are also working with prosecutors handling the Tupac Shakur trial to connect the dots between Diddy and KD and find a motive for why Diddy may have been involved in the uniliving of Tupac. If I wouldn't have never met him, I wouldn't have never been involved in this, you know. What I'm saying, if I would have never met the brother, I would have never been involved in this, really. And that's not all, guys. Tupac's family also recently hired lawyers and private investigators to look into the Diddy connection. So it's a whole team looking from different angles, and best believe that something is about to hit our feeds very soon, but nobody know why.
I would have never been involved in this, you know what I'm saying? I would have never met the brother. I would have never been involved in this.
Nobody know why Pac and Puff fell out like they did. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay, we all know that the self-confessed Los Angeles gang kingpin KD is currently the only person charged with the assassination of Tupac in September 1996. Well, that's about to change, because Diddy has been heavily implicated and was named 77 times in documents submitted by prosecutors in their opposition to K's bail request. As a matter of fact, according to sources, the federal investigators who put Diddy behind bars have been sharing information with the Los Angeles prosecutors handling the Tupac trial to explore posse connections between Diddy and whatever happened to Tupac. An unnamed insider spilled that federal authorities have been gathering details from Las Vegas prosecutors and their associates regarding broader allegations and ties to illegal undertakings, organized crime operations, and people who had motive to unalive Tupac. Initially, sources had claimed that no one from the DA's office was going to say at this stage that Diddy is being considered as part of this case. The priority was to build as strong an argument as possible to convince a jury beyond doubt that K was the caller, and they were confident that they had a significant raft of evidence to win that case. But now the tables have turned, and the feds are working together to connect the dots on how Diddy was involved. The sources said the federal investigators have their work centered around the modern-day activity of Diddy, but they know that Vegas has been colliding information for the last couple of years on the Tupac case, as well as speaking to tens of witnesses. Truthfully, their work pulling together many agencies' files from the nearly 30 years about Keefe D and his connections interactions with criminal elements is the most extensive probe of Tupac's uniliving and network ever. So federal agents smartly have not doubled up on the work, but have been made aware of what is happening. Also, a collaboration makes gaining access to federal documents easy to the feds. Know who Metro investigators have spoken to about the case and are aware of witnesses too. It's possible that they may already have something on Diddy, since retired head of the Los Angeles field office Phil Carson told the Daily Mail that he suspected Keefe D may have flipped on Diddy to save his own skin. He said it's not like the olden days of the Italian mafia where everybody kept their mouth shut. As soon as somebody has handcuffs on them, they'll sell out their own mom. Now Kefe's arrested, and that's a game changer because they have something over him, and that's when he may start spilling his guts. He's an OG from out there. He's rubbed shoulders with a lot of the big shots. Every one of those guys has a story to tell about how the streets were run back then. So who's to say K didn't start throwing stuff out there that he hasn't talked about before to potentially save his ass? That's not to say it's the reason federal law enforcement executed these warrants on Diddy's house, but it would be Interesting to know what the evidence is, and where the evidence came from that they put in these affidavits to get both these search warrants. It's got to be something of substance. Remember Greg Kading, a retired LAPD detective who investigated Tupac's case. In 2008-2009 previously revealed that KD provided his nephew Anderson with a firearm that took Tupac out, who was in the car with them, and collectively, they went out and intended to target Tupac. If you've seen the documentary by the detective, you probably know how he talked about how Diddy put a $1 million hit on both Tupac Shakur and SHG Knight following the highly publicized rap beef involving himself and Biggie, and how he hired KD to carry out the hit. The documentary says that Tupac was taken out by Crips gang member Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, even though the original hit was supposed to be carried out by KD, and as noted, plans were changed at the last minute after they unexpectedly pulled up on the wrong side of Tupac's vehicle, so K's nephew carried out the hit instead. In the documentary, KD also spilled that Biggie Smalls' then wife Faith Evans allegedly knew about Diddy's plot to take out Tupac. He actually claimed that he contacted Diddy and Faith to let them know that they were responsible for the death. The detective, however, clarified that Biggie did not play any part in getting rid of Tupac despite their well-documented rap beef. He said that Biggie was not aware of Diddy's plans to eliminate both Pac and his manager SHG Knight, but Diddy definitely was. Later on, the detective was asked if he believed KD, and he told the Daily News, "You get a very strong sense that he's speaking very genuinely and transparently. He comes across as telling the story as someone who was there. The fluidity is very natural, but what really convinced us it was true was all the corroboration. He told us things that he couldn't have known unless he was actually a participant. For example, KD knew there was a secondary that night that investigators kept a secret. Well, KD has also done enough and said enough to implicate himself for the uniliving of Tupac. For instance, during an interview with Vlad TV, he was shown a police confessional where he went into very specific details about what happened on that fateful night. Lane starts blasting him. You say, should looks over, he sees you. Yeah, he looks right at you. Yeah, he looking at me, okay? When he looks over at you, and then you know Tupac's busy getting story is. Tupac's trying to either get out of the back seat or something. Yeah, what do you see happening inside? I seen a Buick Corn SH head. I thought he was dead. So Orlando cross-stray. He leaned over on the window. We rolled down the window. Who they would drove on my side. I would pop them, you know what I'm saying. But they was on the other side, right? KD basically confirmed that he was one of the 4 occupants in the white Cadillac that pulled up alongside Tupac's car before someone inside the vehicle fired at him 4 times, and that wasn't the only time he said such a thing. By the way, he has also bragged about being in the vehicle in his memoir Compton Street Legends. Now in his Vlad TV interview, Keefe D also claimed that the fee for the takeout, which was $1 million, was paid by a famous hip-hop star to gang member Eric Von Zip, but he never disclosed who the famous hip-hop star was that offered the bounty. But he has already said enough in the past to imply that it was Diddy. I mean, these are just some of the things that came up in court, and now that the case keeps growing, Tupac's family is also taking steps to get justice. Remember, Tupac's brother Tupac Shakur already said that everyone KD has ever mentioned in relation to Tupac should be held accountable, and when he was asked about Diddy, he said that Diddy had actually called him to tell him he had nothing to do with it, but he didn't know whether he was being sincere or was just trying to cover his tracks. The boy Puffy called me though. Puffy called me back in the day. He called me. He was like, I just want you to know I ain't have nothing to do with your brothers. You know, I know who you are, but we never met. And I just want to called you man, to let you know that I have nothing to do with your brother's death. Now, why was he calling me, reaching out to me? Because LA Times had just dropped, it was in early 2000s, LA Times had just dropped an article in the newspaper implicating him as well. I told him I appreciate the call, but the truth is yet to come out, so we going to see. But then after K's arrest and his resurfaced interview mentioning Diddy, Mopper thought that they should actually look into things more keenly. He even said when talking about KD, he mentioned certain people that may be accomplices. So at this point in the game, somebody's accountable. Are they going to make everybody he's talking about accountable? I don't have to do anything this individual mentioned. D's name law enforcement has a job to do. Will they do it? It feels like Pac is being vindicated, because back in the days when things were going down, everybody thought he was crazy. He may have not expressed it properly, but that don't mean he was wrong. Well, guess what? Tupac's family has already lawyered up to make sure that if there is any evidence that is going to tie Diddy to the case, it will be found. Sources with direct knowledge spilled that members of Tupac's still living relatives have retained attorneys Alex SPO and Christopher Claw, as well as a team of investigators to look into KD's resurfaced allegation that Diddy offered to pay him and his crew money to take Pac out in the 90s. Apparently, the family feels there might be something to this claim, and with the legal team they've brought on, they're hoping to dig up any potential evidence that exists to corroborate it, as the lawyers plan to run down any and all leads they can find. Reportedly, the Diddy allegation will be the main focus of this private investigation, and the team is confident they'll surface potential evidence, including more legal ducks. If they do, any material that implicates Diddy and alleged wrongdoing will be passed on to the proper authorities to be looked into for possible criminal charges. If nothing comes out on the criminal front, Tupac's family would potentially look into filing a wrongful death suit again, assuming they uncover evidence to do so. And when I tell you that the pressure is coming from all angles, it's not looking good for Diddy. Eminem is still maintaining that he believes that Diddy is involved in the uniliving of both Biggie and Tupac. On his recent song Feel Shady Edition, included on the freshly released The Death of Slim Shady Expanded Murs Edition, Eminem resurfaced the accusations that Diddy had something to do with the deaths of Biggie and Tupac and made it very clear that those are still his thoughts. Like, he literally waps. Notorious B.'s death was the domino effect of Tupac on L. Living like facial tissue. Whose card should I clean next? Puffs till he's in police handcuff. Guilty. Will he step up? Like, Gene never turned himself in. Who knows all the uniliving there will have been, or me mixed up. Prepare for me to not choose none of my words carefully. Well, if the feds working on Diddy's current charges are collaborating with the prosecutors on Tupac's case, I'm convinced that they have something on Diddy. Whatever it is will definitely come out in due time. But meanwhile, let me know what you think about this new collaboration. Also, what are your thoughts on Tupac's family also hiring private investigators to look into the connection? Drop those thoughts in the comment section below. Yes.